Learning about it, we did visit homes, we did visit in the mornings, we did look at it. And you know that when you're using cotton diaper, the challenge you get is, to wake up in the morning, in the evening, the mom's sleep is disturbed. But more importantly, the baby's sleep is also disturbed, right? So as we went through that, we uncovered the opportunity that clearly the win for the mother-in-law and the mother would be the baby's development. And as we looked at that, we realized that if we could provide longer sleep hours, uninterrupted at night, that would help us then create a win-win for the mother-in-law and the mother. And that's where our Golden Sleep campaign that launched the brand came about, right? We went and looked at, I think, 2,000 homes, which is split in half, and we looked at the quality of sleep of 1,000. We side by side study, 1,000 on cotton diaper and 1,000 on hard diaper. And we were able to show that with diapers, we were able to then provide longer sleep. And then the baby comes out more active the following day, the mom is better rested. And so you get a virtuous cycle. And that insight was what allowed us to get into China in a very successful way, right? And you can imagine that we've been selling diapers in the US for forever at that point in time. But we had to uncover an insight that really was powerful, that then created the win-win for the mother and the mom, which then addressed a fundamental issue that we were how do we sell. And today, our business in China is phenomenal, it's growing, and we're looking at that. And why I started with that really is I wanted to focus today most of the discussion on the customer. So, now that the slide is ready, that's where we'll start. So I was an entrepreneur while I was working in P&G as well. I tried selling slacks. The most I sold was about 3,000 pairs. And that was about it. It was a wholesale sale. My friend at the factory, and I helped me with some money, and that was at the start of it. I also did some food stalls in the early days. I'm from the Philippines, so supermarkets and food stalls, and we were doing reasonably well until we lost money to our person who was attending the store. Right? So I learned quickly that you cannot trust, you can trust, but you have to check, right? And then the last one was really, we decided to the help of my auntie to enter into the model kits. I don't know if you're familiar with Tamiya mother. It's a model radio controlled cars. And that was a store that we set up. I also set up the first store and it did not work. And then we moved it to a second smaller place. That's where we did it. So the business is still going. My sister took over it. The J is for James, M is for Michael, and N is for Natalie. And Natalie essentially took over, and then she's expanded it now to 2 stores. Right? So small and keeps her busy as well. And I thought that by sharing this, I do want to show that I also then decided to focus on P&G. I started in the Philippines, right? So moved to, of course, Cincinnati. I had an opportunity to work in Taipei as we were looking to build our capability for China. And then I got assigned to Kobe in '94, where I stayed for about 12 years. And then luckily got sent to Beijing as we were starting our new innovation center there. When I went there were about 265 people. By the time we left, we had about 600 people, and had the chance to go to the Beijing Olympics. And then since 2012, I was given the opportunity to design, build, and organize this innovation center. So you are saying my baby. I'm very proud of it, but I do hope that it can continue to grow as we move forward. So a quick one, as we think about my personal learning, it really is one of the key things I've learned as I went through both P&G life and my previous life as an entrepreneur was the fact that really one of the key things I did not do very well was really understanding the alternatives or the alternative competition that we had. Second, what kind of business I was in. Was I selling price, which essentially I was doing with the slacks business. The remote controlled model kits continues to sell well because I do think it's a point of difference. It has a unique point of difference. There's very few suppliers. There's probably 10 globally. And if you're able to get the franchise, have the location, that allows you to then create a product that nobody else can sell and then the pricing elasticity to speak of. I think service is harder. It depends a lot on people. And I know that there's several types of businesses that we're all working on. And then, of course, business model. Business model, the only example I can think of which hurt P&G was Dollar Shave Club. It was a mail order subscription model that then affected our Gillette business in the US dramatically. Right? So if you think about the different business models, I think this would probably cover 80–90% of what your work could be covering. And over the past 12 years, P&G has not been stellar. We've not been growing. We've divested a number of our companies, and over the past year and a half, the business has started to turn around and has continued to look quite strong. And I think what we've learned through the exercise, at least for P&G, we needed to deliver superior products. So that's one of the core values that we have. Superiority is what paid for this innovation center. It is what we're trying to do in this innovation center. And certainly, one of the difference also is that we are premium priced, right? So if you're an SK-II user, you know SK-II is one of the most expensive skincare brands, but truly, it delivers. And of course, then at the end of the day, it's not the price, but consumers are looking for superior value, right? So that at least is the business model that we work against. And I do think that as we focus on making sure that our product is superior, has a point of difference, it has a holistic experience, we are starting to see our business turn and get better. Right? And this is the whole exercise that we have in this room, that is in this building. Our remit for the company, we need to continue to make sure that our products are superior. And we continue to look at it in ways where we are testing a lot with the consumer. So as with Pampers, we did study with the moms, their changing habits overnight. We observed that. And so that's the same thing for our beauty business that we need from here for Asia. So this was what we got from some of you. I hope this is a good reflection of the challenges that some of you have raised as an opportunity area. And as I went through that, I thought that one of the biggest commonalities hopefully that we could deal with is really the customer, right? Knowing the customer. And I start with what the persuasive selling framework that at least our salespeople uses, right? So there are 5 things that we talk about. But the first and foremost really is understanding the customer situation and value drivers and build our solutions to help customers achieve their business goals. Far too often, at least when we are creating new products that we try to sell, because we are product development, we're so focused on delivering the best product. But then from a company standpoint, or from a purchasing standpoint, we are probably giving a product that is too expensive. But then for us, it meets our sort of discipline's mission, right? Our discipline's mission is to get better products. And we, of course, far easier to do it when we don't have cost constraint. But the reality, of course, is we are boxed in by what market or consumers are willing to pay, And therefore, we really need to think about making sure that we are delivering products that are truly good value, superior, and can be made at a profit, right? And that's where I do think we will try to at least spend a number of our time to at least go through the exercise. So know your customers. So this is one of the key things really that we talk about really. If you're able to touch the hearts of the consumer or customers, you would say you would have a better chance at delivering success, right, for your business. And more often than not, the challenge is always, am I standing in the shoes of the customer, or am I trying to drive what I think the customer needs are? And this is not easy. We continue to have this challenge as we go through many of our operations. Even internally, you might say that, hey, we have different businesses. Product development needs to sell our product to the marketing people so that then they can come behind it and invest marketing. We will have to work with purchasing or ES to sell the idea that they need to change their equipment, which of course is capital that we would prefer not to spend, but then we would need to prove to them that the consumers truly would want this and therefore would be very successful. And we've had histories of where we were able to convince the company that it is a good consumer idea, but it never sold products, right? I don't know if you've heard about Olestra. Olestra that was supposed to provide oil that would not be fattening. The downside of it is, as we used it in more products, consumers suffered. Truly, it was not fattening because the body was not absorbing it, but it was creating another problem, which at the other end, it was flowing through, right? So that we have a huge plant which we had to shut down, right? So I try to preach customer. I'm not saying we do that all the time. We've also made huge mistakes. So hopefully the mistakes we've done would be hopefully enlightening as you think about it. So this is what we are beginning to do more now as I talk about growth works. This is one of the key fundamental things we try to teach people, right? So if you think about the customer or the consumer, you should be defining who your consumer is and what is your problem, not what is your problem, right? And then look for potential solutions. So, does anybody want to give an example? Maybe we can go back to these were some of the challenges. So for the first one, who would be the consumer if you think about that? Purchaser or
insurance?
That's an insurance. So who is the customer of the insurance?
You and I.
So you're not. So we are the consumer, right? And do we understand the needs of the different things, right? I am probably closer to retirement than you. My needs are going to be very different than you, right? In fact, I just talked to my Citibank customer relations. They were trying to sell me purchasing some of the, and they were trying to do it in a way that they forced me to decide within the day because there is a promo that's going to end the next day. They don't understand me because I don't like making decisions on the fly. Since I'm from product research, I will do research before I do any major funding commitment. Same thing with the organism. So I do think that as you think about your customer, try to be in the shoe or in their shoe and try to then articulate what the customer issue is. So for the insurance, what would be your issue that would be different from my issue, right? So I have a shorter span, probably investment span. I probably need cash that could be more available when I retire, right? Whereas you could probably think of a longer horizon or even do your own investing as you think about that. Are there other customers you have? I think we could use this group to at least help you think about your challenges. Anybody?
Purchasing managers.
Sorry?
Purchasing and procurement managers.
Purchasing
Purchasing and procurement managers.
Yes. What are their needs? If you think you're a purchasing manager, what
Cheaper costs and better value.
cheaper cost and better value. What other needs do they have? We can ask the purchasing person here. What are your R&D people that pushes on them to get even better quality? Maybe for us it will probably be the quality. What else do you think are some of the other things? Maybe they have a quota that they need to deliver savings, right? That's the other need that they have. Are there other needs that the purchasing manager would have?
I don't know, but maybe shine, bring new ideas, see what's
Innovation?
going on, yeah, what's going on currently in the market. Maybe help the company to be the first one to adopt something.
Yes, that's what we complain about purchasing. They always think about cost reduction, not innovation, but they're now doing that as well, right? So, but the innovation buyers are probably different from the cost buyers, right? Any others?
Well, for me, not so much the purchasing side of things. I deal with different types of consumers. So one thing I do is try to relate to their business, relate to them.
Understand the business, yeah?
Right? Because if you don't, then you can't really solve their problem.
Mm-hmm.
You can solve their, give them a solution. But I believe that even though you do that, you attempt to do that, and you think you are
Yeah.
helping them, you take a few steps forward, they take a few steps back.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had to sometimes work with one client for about 6 months before they finally say, okay.
You should work with P&G, 6 months will be short.
So, but 6 months for me is a long
Long time.
time because I'm a small business and prices fluctuate in what I do. And so 6 months is a long time to, so it's not about so much convincing the customer. I think knowing the customer, talking to them, understanding their business is not a problem. I think that's fine. It's just that when you think you
Got it.
made that connection and they're ready to say, okay, I'm gonna do this with you right now, and you don't hear that from them for like, I don't know, and then you have to keep chasing them. And so that's the thing that I don't understand,
Okay.
why they do that.
Have you considered
Give them
also,
a solution, but then, you're working out the cost with them.
Mhm.
You say, oh, it's too expensive, like, things that you might face. So you say, okay, fine, we'll work out the cost. We'll do everything to help you, right?
and
And you don't hear from them. Like,
And the other point I made earlier was really, do you know the competitive landscape, number one?
Yeah.
Right? Is there another small industry, another small
not to
medium?
my knowledge, maybe
Right.
there is someone else
Right.
they're dealing with, but from
So-
what I know, it's the bigger ones and the small ones.
Because what I see often in my case is that
Yes.
what I see often in my case is that I have the smaller ones, they would come and ask for a price, but they might not be ready. So they're not ready to take a decision. They don't have the budgets yet. They might be waiting for some I don't know, some investment or something to come in. And then and then they feel bad not telling you. They don't want to tell you because they feel like but what I often do is we are changing prices every year, and we tell them that the prices that you got here is valid until this. And if you do decide to go later, just make sure that the price might change.
I mean, I think
Yeah.
for me, patience is something that I've learned
Yeah.
to cultivate, really. I mean, I think it's very important to be patient with customers, especially small companies, because, I'm a small company myself,
Yeah.
so I really can't relate. So I don't push as much as I think maybe some other companies might.
Mhm.
And I help even to
Oh,
They're more
okay.
willing to commit faster. In Singapore, I know, in like say Europe or US, they're more willing to commit, whereas here, they take a really long time. I think they probably focus on
I
marketing.
think they're different clients. I think I've had clients who, they want a cost and they commission straight away.
Yeah,
Literally
clear
can fly
cut.
to China next day. Others, big and small, will take a year for the same project to come through. And I think it's planning, and I think a lot of Asian clients don't plan well until
That's true.
something happens and they need to.
The other thing clearly also is in terms of us, we work on fiscal year basis, right? So that's one other budget is a big problem. Of course, the other thing we look at is reliability. Do we have experience? What is the experience? So those are things that hopefully as you work through it, we'll go through this. How about any other ones who wants to, well, some of these are corporate customer budget.
I'll just compare maybe because you have 6 months engaging with them, it might be that you're already giving them a lot for free.
Okay.
So make sure that you, because maybe you already received some answer for you so they can continue because you're in the service. Yes, for free, so you can
Ah.
just a bit and then
So they're
maybe
using-
something that delay because they already have what they need in terms of okay, now you can do this and then only when you really need to. So make sure.
So
Very interesting.
I'm learning as well, so thank you very much. So I do think that as you look at this, one of the key things we try to do, right, is really focus a lot on being a consumer, what is the problem, and what are some potential solutions. And what I'd like to do then is really move to the fact that really this is what we do. I'm sure it has some applications as well as you think about your work. At the end of the day, there is certain truth as far as the customer is concerned, right? And we tackled some of those, right? They have a need, they need a certain price. The other thing that clearly is the motivation, right? Why are they doing that? What is important? However, and this is what you talked about, they're not ready to commit even though the price seems to be good from your perspective. Number two, I don't think a lot of the companies or a lot of the Asians say no directly. So that's the other thing that you may want to think about, right? Saying no is not something that they probably would like to do. And maybe after 6 months it's a no, but they still don't want to be in your face, so to speak, right? So those are some of the tensions that we look at. And what I'll try to do in the next few minutes is go through this. Hopefully it can trigger some thoughts as you look at the challenges you have with your customers. And then we can then have a discussion, right? And then I'll share the sheets as you go along. Maybe I should share the sheets. So you can work with your problem. Not enough, sorry. There should be extra. Forgot to bring ball pen, sorry. All right, so we'll go through this exercise so that then, as you think about your problem, you can, there's ball pen if you need. So, I went back and I picked one problem, sorry, whoever the problem is. As I picked the second problem, I go back to the same hamper story, but really, if you think about small agencies working with clients, they tend to favor big clients, right? So that's probably the dilemma most of you face in. So I picked that as a way to think about it. So as I went through the exercise of what I call who the consumer is, what is the customer problem, I put in some generic solutions, and hopefully we can make that as a, if you are a small agency, who would be your customer? Not necessarily the purchasing person sometimes. Marketing,
Is it okay? Can you hear me?
okay?
So no, because what I feel is with small agencies, I also know, in my case, I go to see the marketing person. The marketing say, oh, we're gonna work with small agencies, you're fast, you know, you're cheaper, you're dynamic, you have nice ideas, you get a team, you know, everything is good. So marketing is like more hyped, and then they like their ideas, and then it's like, you're perfect, comes in. and then, sorry for, but what happens often is that, and then even the company says, I'm talking about video companies, the company says, well, actually, yes, we're all in favor of agile, we're going to go fast, we're going to work with small, like all these like hack things. And then procurement comes in. And then suddenly, procurement handles us as we were like Ogilvy or some of the big agencies. And then suddenly, oh, you need to subscribe on an insurance that's covering the whole world, and that's going to cost you like 17 months. So the pricing thing boom, goes up, you know. and then it says, oh, and then by the way, you need to go through the procurement system. And by the way, yeah, for small agencies, we don't really have a solution for that. But you have to wait for 90 days to get paid.
Yes. It's 120 with P&G.
Sorry.
120 with P&G.
Yeah.
What the, yeah.
So basically, there's a message about being agile and wanting to do things with smaller agencies. Marketing is all hyped about it because they see they have solutions and they have needs because they often get things coming in and they need to solve solutions fast. And then on the corporate, when you sort of go into the onboarding session, even though I don't think it takes that too much time now for the big corporates, I've seen that process being pretty fast. I think even though it's you fill in the form, you just have to log in. Okay, there's a lot of logins and stuff to create, but as soon as you just follow the process, it's fine. The thing is that more in the procedure of the run that I feel might be difficult. So in terms of the company decision maker, so marketing, if they really believe in you, they will fight for you. So that's what I've learned. They will really fight for you to be in the thing. However, if marketing person who brought you in goes away, and then you end up sort of like in between, and then the bigger agency will just get it because they just
Yeah, they have the system. They're already in the system.
yeah. Or they are okay with terms and conditions and
Yep.
with all these things. Because it's true that you can't be cheap and pay 70,000 in insurance.
Mm-hmm. So,
I think, sorry, I have the same challenge, I think, a lot of people do here. The only success I found is working pilot chain. When you have a CMO, when you're talking to CMO, when you're talking to category directors,
Yeah.
they really like you, really ready
Yeah,
to
that's what I'm
work.
saying. That's what I'm fighting for you. They
Yeah.
really did. But if you sort of go into at some point that and you haven't received that, you haven't come to that stage yet, then it's a bit.
It takes longer, I think.
Yeah.
and that's also true for P&G because our systems are geared for repetitive work versus, I was half joking, but innovative work. So if we need to talk to a small supplier, we need to go through, the small supplier has to go through the entire process, at least in the past. We've worked with our purchasing people to find ways to enable that, right? So part of it is, and that's why at least we sort of try to launch GrowthWorks. We have what we call, at least in the RP&G, we have the Get to Yes program, right? How do I get purchasing to yes, legal to yes, in a way that doesn't then get encumbered in the bureaucracy of a large company. And that's trying to understand some of the risk involved as well, right? So for example, we are worried about internet security, right? So how then do we get around that so that then you don't get into our intranet or whatever? But there are many of those things that corporates and people like us get frustrated about, but as you said, either the director or the CMO feels it's a risk that they would like to take, because most of the big agencies were once small at the end of the day, right? So it takes somebody willing to risk and leaning forward, and we've done some of that, and we're trying to do more of that here as well. So hopefully we'll get something as well.
Sorry, I think obviously we work in similar sectors, but I think the thing is, as the bigger agencies are changing as well, you don't get the same quality for them. And I think clients are more interested in quality. I've had a lot of clients who work with me who just are like, I know you're working on this project, you're not having somebody with 3 years experience working on it and I'm paying direct costs.
Yeah.
And I think I come from big agencies as well, and I think you see how it's changing. I think the market is really starting to shift.
Yep. I think you're at the good time, because I know that's something we don't change, but we're starting to change. Crowdsourcing is possible now for design versus waiting on the big agencies as well. So there are things that's happening that hopefully, as the startup community here also grows, those would lead to more possibilities, so to speak, right? And so I do think that this is a very generic thing, right? But you're highlighting that really the issue is not the consumer, it's really the bureaucracy of the company, right? You will not be able to solve that.
However, to take the
Other-
the size of it, not
Yeah,
the size of-
sure.
As a small agency, we also work with small and medium-sized enterprises as well. So, and that, to me, that's always faster, you know, when you have a stakeholder who says, I want to do the project, you know, the budget is there. And then, but it's true, you know, the decision maker needs to be the one who's paying for it. So
Yes.
go up the chain, so often we end up talking to the CEO or the founder of the company. And then of course, the problem for them is often timing, as you say, especially in Asia. I think some companies are planning that much. So basically, we have come up with solutions that are running projects much more intense and more in
Yeah.
order to get that timing.
Mhm.
They say, oh, I need a website next month. So then we need to sort of do that. But and then in terms of the big,
Quality.
that's the big agency, it's not even an option for them because it's too expensive.
For this, yeah. So you're also saying, hey, who is the right target as a small agency I should go after to get going, hopefully grow with them, right? So if you're able to grow and make their choices on the small companies and invest in the future, then it might, in the long run, help you. Yeah? So I've tried to then, right, so as you go through the exercise, you can ask 5 times, but maybe 3 times would help, right? Why is it important to him? Why is that so? Why does she believe so, right? So one of the things you may ask yourself, why would go big agency, right? And it could be, I have prior experience, we've had a long-term relationship, they have a track record with us, and of course, comfort is the other one. We're all humans, we're all under stress, and anything that is convenient is something we go to. We do that with our research agencies, we tend to go with that, right? So that's a way to further deeper into the whys and hopefully help you think through the challenges. Right, here are some of the other things to ask yourself as you go through your exercise. What is worrying him? What is holding him back? So to your point, what is worrying him probably is the bureaucracy. And the work that they need to go through, it's probably easier to hire you than to get the bureaucracy to change. And that's very true in large companies, right? And so that takes more time, and therefore we tend to then go with bigger agencies that are already in the system. Our systems are hopefully improving. And then what are some of the gaps between this and the standard of excellence? The example you said today, as people look for faster timing with e-commerce opening up other possibilities, that is helping. I mean, we are also changing. I mean, we're also relying now very much on key opinion leaders. Last week, we hosted about 40 key opinion leaders to just share them the science that we have that then could appeal to 10,000 of their followers or 50,000 of their followers, right? But that's a very different exercise versus working with a copy agency to then put the copy in the big TVs, right? And so it is also moving in the direction of that, right? And what are some acid tests or acid moments that would eliminate or help better manage the situation for you, right? Are there ways that you could think of that you could then help make it easier for your customer to make that decision? These are all theoretical. I know it's easier to say than do, but hopefully it will trigger some questions in your mind about understanding the tension that your consumer goes through, right? I mentioned in the Pampers case, the tension was really between the mother-in-law and the mother. And by finding a common opportunity, which is the baby and his or her development through sleep, we were able to find a win-win for both the mom and the mother that then opened up the opportunity for Pampers in China, right? I think those things could eventually be true, and thinking about it would help you drive those as well. Any questions so far?
Could you go back to the previous slides?
Yeah.
So it's quite quick. The one about the motivations and truth. Was it one?
Yep.
Um, I just wanted to see that.
All right. Yeah, and I think that's something we try to do when we have problems. We do the why analysis to help us address and understand if there are other more deeper reasons, right?
Do you think the best way to understand this is actually to ask the customer and consumer, or is there another way we can understand this? Because sometimes when you ask someone in a very direct setting, it works with different cultures or backgrounds. Sometimes people don't offer up the real truth.
Yes.
Right? We do that in our work all the time. I mean, when I was in consulting, sometimes the actions don't map to what they tell you, what
Yeah.
they want. Because there could be a lot of things driving it. So I find, the question that's curious to me is, if you really want to uncover deeper motivations, what are some of the things that you use to uncover that?
Talking consumers, we generally tend to observe, right? Because there are compensating behaviors, right? So I know when I was working in laundry, one of the key things that is a problem with hand washing, not machine washing, is really the dissolution of the powders, right? Or the laundry powders. But when you ask consumers about that, they tend not to talk about it because they have identified a way to resolve that problem, right? So what we tend to do is then go observe and look at the real habits and practices, right? We recently did some work to understand the habit for using Febreze spray. And of course, everybody claims they follow the usage instruction. But today, with a lot of the new digital technologies, we were able to learn that they really only press halfway through, right? That they really judge on the basis of the wetness that they see, right? So consumers are very good in that sense that they are able to self-adjust. We also learned that they use a lot during weekends, right? So those kinds of new insights are becoming very helpful to us, but it starts with observation. You're right. Asking will never give you the whole answer, particularly if it's an embarrassing. I mean, I cannot bring the bureaucracy, right? There's nothing I can do, so that will not come out, right? So I do think observing is one way to do it. Any other questions?
I think that the observing is something related to the company who said product. It's
Yeah.
consumers they can observe. Right? So I don't know if we can observe our clients, for example, if we deal with the marketing person and the procurement, we cannot observe and understand why, for example, he decides not to work with us, why he choose something else. We can ask him, which is maybe
Yeah, for
a
the,
start.
good.
But observing,
Yeah, you may have to find other ways, like maybe talking to colleagues or other people that are not directly involved in the decision making, right? That might be one way to do this. I don't know if other people have other tricks that they've done, but that would be one way I would look at it.
Yeah, so when I was like a long time back in B school, so what some of the companies do is end up hiring young graduates to do customer insight projects. So then, people are a lot more unguarded, talking
that's
to a young.
students, it's student projects, right?
Yeah,
That's one
yeah.
way.
So it's an interesting way to look at it, especially for B2B, where there's just so many stakeholders involved. So then you kind of map out who you need to talk to and things like that. And if you talk to enough people, patterns emerge.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but
It's a lot
that's
of work.
one, I mean, we talk to 1,000 consumers to come up with one insight. It's like mining for gold in essence, right? That you need to talk to many, some will probably be worthless, right? But we just need to invest and find that one insight that hopefully covers it, right? So in our case, it's a different.
I have something else to add. I find that it helps if the questions come before you actually try to procure a job for someone, right? You ask leading questions that are not direct. It's not like why do you want to choose me, right? It's more of, who was your vendor last, and you share the experience with me. So you ask questions to find stories, and people start telling stories. They enjoy sharing their experiences, and you pick out the words that they use. They said that we just didn't have too little time last year, right? So when they say things like that, you know that maybe time was the problem, not the agency. So I think these are leading questions that you can also use to try and gain information that you want to put together with your research. But I think that also kind of helps. And if you don't get the job, I think after that it's more about finding out who got it, right? And compare, right? Ask yourself why.
Learning, I mean,
Yeah.
post-project analysis, which I think you do. I mean, I don't know what your hit rate is. For us, for example, launching new products, we're looking at something like 10%, right? We need to have 10 ideas that go into the market, hoping or expecting that one will succeed, right? And I don't know what the batting average is. We need to figure that out as well, that there is a batting average. At the end of the day, it's not 5 out of 5. If you're very good, maybe you are able to do that, but really there is an average. And for us, even in the kind of work we put in to create new products, we're doing 10%.
This is one thing, I'm not sure if everybody can do that, but was it here we said like we were old people and you like try to know the
Human.
people?
Yeah.
If we had that here, but yeah, that was it. Okay, so yes, I think that's super important to understand, setting the scene about getting the confidence and the
Yeah.
trust. And what I always do, and I'm not sure if that's right or wrong, but I do it and it seems to help. Like if I go for a fashion meeting and there's a Chinese name, I would bring a Chinese employee with me. And if there's a Malay, I would bring the Malay. If it's an Indian, I would bring the Indian. And
So
if it's
there's
a European,
connection.
I can go alone.
So there's a connection.
So yeah, and also I get some cultural, because sometimes there are
Cultural
unsaid
nuances.
stuff
Yes.
that I don't get.
Yep.
And then they'll tell me, oh yeah, nobody said that. He actually meant that thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if that's possible, but that's
Cultural interpretation is very powerful, and that's one of the challenges, understanding the local context or the context of the company. So we use a lot of that word context, right? You need to understand the context is different for each situation. Each consumer is very different.
Actually, that's very interesting. Can I ask if anybody in this room could bring a male colleague if you're meeting a whole panel of male colleagues?
yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do, yeah.
So it's also gender. Yeah.
Yeah, diversity. You need to look at the diversity and manage that.
But actually, my experience is that interesting that you say that. I do observe that the client is of opposite gender. It works better. The project is kind of, I mean, that's my experience. It tends to be smoother. So, I mean,
It's hard to generalize, but
Yeah.
I mean, you just need to be aware of it, right?
it's an observation.
So I flipped it around, right? Some of the other tensions is really, sometimes we have experiences with small agencies and we stereotype all the agencies as they are small, therefore they will not have the quality. Hold back, right? They no track record, don't know enough of the people. So here are some of the tensions that as you look at it, really looking at it. So we have a simple 5-point guide that we look at to help you think. You don't need to do all things, but these are really things for you to go through and think about as you think about it. Is why do you know or believe the insight is true and relevant to your target consumer? Right? Challenge yourself to say, is it really true? Right? Is gender truly going to help? Is a Malay person with me going to help? Those are things that at least can help you then create some practices, right? What are some insights that are not yet obvious? And that I think is very critical. If you can find a not obvious insight, that will help unravel the opportunity for you. What are some of the tensions? What are insights that could inspire multiple ideas and actions for your team to achieve your stated objectives? And more importantly, as we said, they're humans, so how do you touch their hearts as a way to then get commitment and support? So here are some of the questions you can ask yourself. Is the insight really true and relevant? Can you strengthen the truth by looking at the consumers from different angles, right? We talked about looking at the consumer being a diversity person or a different type of cultural person. How then do you look at some of the cultural nuances? Is there a unique circumstances at that point in time, right? For large companies at the end of the fiscal year, they either don't have money or they have a lot of money that they're looking to then use up, right? And then of course functional. So I tried to do that for what are some of the truth around it. So I do think big agencies all started with small agency once, right? Someone took a risk in the past with a small agency. Somebody said we're using the same people and that's not sufficient. And I do think there is the reputation of large companies that many of us at least look at as well. And therefore, even though you are the same person that now is in a small agency, it's a different circumstance. And how then do you bring that uniqueness about so that it's not a negative for you, right? But those are realities that I do think we grapple with on a day-to-day basis.
So I think it's also about saying what your real strengths are. that
Being
makes-
clear about
That makes you different to the
Yeah.
agency, so it's hands-on, it's nimble, it's.
Point of difference, yeah. You can call me at midnight, actually. So, but that clarity of who you are is also very important and what your point of difference is, right? And then focus on that point of difference so that then it becomes what you're known for. So the not too obvious, right? Does your consumer readily articulate this insight? If it's so obvious that we discovered rich, layered, emotion-filled insights not likely to be identified by competition, right? I had a unique opportunity to also work on Pantene Pro-V, and one of the key insights we had was really hair so healthy it shines. At that point in time, it was a big and relevant need at that point in time. We were able to demonstrate that with the hair that was permed, and we had great copy that came as a result of that. But clearly, recognizing that for Asia in 1994, in the 90s, hair health was a very important element, helped us then link that to a product benefit that then uncovered opportunity. So those are some of the other things that as we look at how are we able to link different benefits to certain articulations or physical outcomes from the products. So maybe this is obvious to you, but at least let me try. Many of the companies have a portfolio of big and small projects, right? There are many decision makers, so if you're going after a company that you think is big enough, it might be worth looking at the different portfolio of decision makers to go after. And of course, we are always looking for opportunities for cost, quality, and timing improvements, and if you have a unique point of advantage for that, and maybe you should start off with a new project or a small project to get going, that could help you get a foot in the door, right? Any thoughts, disagreements? No? All right. This is the one that's harder, but maybe something for you to think about. We've talked about it being a human interaction. Really, there needs to be chemistry, there needs to be something that at least helps the consumer or the consumer recognize that you understand him or her and that you're doing this for the win-win that you come to offer, right? I guess the only one I can think of at that point in time really was that the customer or the customer has something to deliver. If you can understand what truly he has to deliver, then you might have a better chance at making the sale or connection. So we've talked these tensions. So do you want to work on your challenge or not? It's up to you, but the sheets are there for you to look at. And this is the final one, triggers action, right? Maybe one of the key things or insights as you go through is really to look for a starter project to build experience and track record. You may have to do it for free for a small project to get going. Those are things that we talked about as well, showcase the point of advantage of a small company. Okay? So I tried to put this in a sheet of paper. Hopefully as you look at your own problem, you will find the sheet useful and helpful. All right? Any questions?
I actually work in insights.
Yep.
And in China, so I know about your past work. I think one of the things that is always a big challenge is that you push your company's agenda, and it's not necessarily receptive on the inside.
Mhm.
It's a bit like PG pushing things to consumers that they're not necessarily ready for is probably the biggest disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
And just because the insight is relevant and true,
It's timely.
doesn't mean that the market is ready or
Ready.
that it's that's prepared to pay or that sort of quality. So I think I always have to remember that with my businesses that just because it is relevant doesn't mean it's perfectly relevant to that client. Or maybe they don't realise yet that that's really important.
Right.
We get obsessed with our own business. We can't necessarily stand back and
Same with us.
be objective.
Yep. And I think what we've talked about now, we're using the language of S-curves, right? But there is an S-curve, especially even with some of the insights, right? I mean, we're late on naturals. I mean, in a small companies, maybe those leading edge ideas might be better off with a smaller company because a larger company generally tends to be slower at that point, right? So you're right in terms of timeliness of ideas, right? There are many of that. I mean, we went into the personalized skincare maybe 20 years ago with Reflect.com. I'm sure nobody knows Reflect.com. But we had an insight, but we could not have the infrastructure to deliver it. I think nowadays it's probably easier, although it's still a question whether consumers truly want personalized product. And so those are some of the challenges on ideas being timely or not. Any other questions? All right.
I'll just share a little bit from a purchasing perspective.
Sorry.
So we're not just about cost savings, right? Innovation is important for us. We do follow a number of different, of course, we're good partners with R&D and with the other functions as well, right? But, cost is definitely important. When we do look at partnerships, how are we building partners, short-term, long-term, and so on. What value are they creating for us? So beyond the pricing, which is important, that's important for everyone. What else are they delivering to us? What else are they, what insights do they have? Are they able to generate and deliver value to us? What is their speed? Like, what is their innovation pipeline? So we do consider a parameter, like the variety of parameters we make those calls. big agency used to be a small agency. In P&G's history, so if you think about, I'll just go like maybe the last 5-7 years or so, from a purchasing perspective on the agency side, we're very much pushing big, go scale, go big, go global, right? And we just realized that even from our businesses, we were not setting our businesses up for success. We were not able to drive agility, we were not able to drive speed, we were not able to really meet local needs. And in the last sort of 3 years, we have decoupled and we've sort of said to the businesses, okay, we're gonna move a lot of that responsibility that was global to the regions, and now we're moving from the regions to the markets, right? Because that's where the customer is, that's where the consumer is, that's who we need to reach. Somebody sitting in Cincinnati or in Geneva, they don't know the insights of my Vietnam customer, right? They may have an idea, but they don't really know. In my Vietnam market, they know what the local customer needs. So we moved away from this big shift of, big global structure to more regional structures to now more localized structures. That doesn't mean that the agency partners have necessarily changed, because we have kept a lot of those kind of global partners just on a more local basis. But we are going towards what we're calling kind of fixed and flow, right? So we have fixed agency models, people that can do kind of core equity type of work, get our consumers, do some of that, manage our total brand across the globe, because we do need consistencies. But then we go into what we call flow, which is really talking about these smaller projects to build that credibility, to get that local insight. And our company is moving much more in this type of direction. So we are going more towards the flow. We're making it easier, not super easy, but we're making it easier for the markets to be able to partner with who they want, provided that these companies that we are partnering with provide value, are able to meet our needs, and so on. So I'll just share from this type of perspective.
We're now upstairs here in the Innovation Center.
Yeah.
That's one of the things we do, so that they become also
Innovators.
very culture innovators. Seriously, they have been very helpful. We've been able to get around some of these bureaucracy issues. We're able to pay upfront if needed for small agencies. So hopefully we might see each other as we work in GrowthWorks. That's something that we are passionate about, and it's about growing small businesses, hopefully into big ones. And I do hope that from a large company perspective, the insights we get from consumers will be relevant for your businesses as you become like P&G. We were also an SME once. 1,181 years ago.
And I believe other companies are also taking this similar approach. Right? When we benchmark with the Unilever, the Cokes, the other FMCG companies, they're also following this type of break the global mold, go towards the global fast. Perfect.
And now because, sorry, I wasn't targeting P&G.
Oh, no, I don't.
So my question, so P&G was really working with another big corporate.
Competition?
Yeah, we're working with your competition, I'm sorry. And we're still a small agency, and the competition has this kind of exclusivity deals. And the thing is that, okay, so if you're okay to work with the smaller, give out the smaller projects to smaller agencies, and then at the same time, if you then say, oh, but by the way, you cannot work with anybody else, but it's still just like 1 or 2 projects. So how is P&G tackling that? Are you similar? Are you also having that exclusivity, even if you just give 1 or 2 projects a year, or is it like linked to how much reach the projects will have? Or, I don't know.
I think it depends on a case-by-case basis, right? What we normally ask of our partners is that if they are working for competitors, which we cannot say you cannot work for competition, that you have the right firewalls in place, that you have the right measures in place. If you think about who our global partners are under like the big holding companies, WPP, Publicis, all of that, it's impossible. They're definitely working with our competitors. But what we ensure is that the right processes are in place, that our information is maintained confidential, the right firewalls are in place, the right levels of separation are put in place. So we would not, it's not our ingoing position to say, as an agency, you cannot work on competition, because we know it's not realistic. Now there might be something that's very unique, a really critical innovation that we are working on, in which case we would say, okay, you know what, we really prefer. Yeah, so it depends on the risk, but I would say going in, generally our position
and they demand like 5 years experience in that specific category, but you can't work with any of our competitors. It's like, well, how does this proceed? Because unless you're going to give me the dollar value that I can get from your competitors for the next year, then you can't have it both ways. You can't have the experience and the category knowledge without giving something up. But I think FMCG has always been a little bit more. I know there's always been the P&G Unilever sort of divide, but otherwise I think it's much easier in those three categories. But some of them, it's amazing what they want you to give up.
This really surprised me, to be honest.
That's technically not enough.
It should be. I mean, in FMCG, it's not allowed. I don't know if they have.
I think if they compensate. So like MasterCard wants me to sign exclusivity. I was like, you have to guarantee me this much money because I can get that in the open market. If you can't do it, then no. I can do it on a specific project basis. I won't work with anyone else for the next 3 months. But
The other thing is for large companies like Unilever and P&G get multiple business units, so that's another way then address those things, right?
I mean, what we've generally found as well is that if there is a leak, so going back to your point, if there is a leak, we normally find out about it, right? Because the agency is small. And so then we automatically know, okay, blacklist this company, and then they're out, and then shame on us, right? Because we should have been better putting this the right type of considerations up front. So smaller companies tend to be more cautious because the industry is small and generally we will find out things if there is a leak between there. So we also go with that, trust first kind of a mindset. I would say, and maybe JH can help me on this a little bit more, on kind of our packaging and our chemical side. We might take a different approach with our suppliers in terms of exclusivity. I'm not exactly sure. But I do recall at least from my packaging days, there was in our contracts, we do have sort of a right of first refusal, right? So if Unilever does come to you and they ask for you to, as a printing supplier, let's say, they ask you to print their new thing, and we really don't want that, we'll say, come to us first, tell us what is the offer, we'll see if we can match it, and so on. So we do have that kind of mechanism that comes into place once in a while. We call it a right of first refusal. That just gives us a chance to secure that capacity or whatever it may be for a self-run. I don't know, JH, if you have any other perspective from the working with competitors side on the packaging. So JH is introducing our next session, so I'm pulling him up a little bit up front since I know he's here. He's my colleague in purchasing, but on the direct side.
Yeah, hello everyone. Just call me JH. Again, I will have some time to get to know you a little bit better later during the break sessions. But just along the topics. So a bit of myself. Last 10 years, I've been working in packaging sourcing and also in contract manufacturing outsourcing for P&Gs across multiple categories that across different product lineup that you see. So with respect to this, working with competitors. Now, we do that as well. So I think if I take a step back and look into a lot of industries that out there, I mean, Apple's wife and Samsung, right, on some of those competitors. I think ultimately it's whether the values that we get, from the competitors. Now, of course, there are things that you may have compromised. They would know better on what they're working on. But I think it's all about what is the value creation that does it make sense for you to go ahead and establish a kind of collaboration with competitors. So it's really case by case, and you also can't do it if it's really commoditized items that you work on. Now maybe you don't need to, right? Because you are essentially may reveal some of the competitive advantage, right, to the competitors. So from an outsourcing standpoint, we tend to weigh what is the value we're going to get, and what are the risks that we might be exposed to. Now, again, I agree with Riona, typically whether it's competitors or whether it's not the competitors or whether with the partners that work with our competitors. Now, ultimately, they do need to have a certain level of abilities to help us secure our informations, to the extent whereby, it's a basic requirements that, to serve all the customers, being able to secure, protect the privacies and all this information. So it's like kind of a part of the qualification of the suppliers, where they'll be able to take care of our intellectual property as well. Right?
I just wanted to do a couple of things as well.
Not so much on this topic, but there were some earlier questions when James was presenting. I loved all the slides you shared. here as I was looking at it. Not so much from a P&G perspective, but like personal and some of the things that happened. I think one of the questions was trying to get feedback. So if you are knocking on the door and people start telling you why they're not giving you business, I do think it's fair for you to just be straightforward and be blunt and ask for that feedback. Just in my role at P&G, you know, I do have more than one person wanting to sell me the same thing. And so it is fair for me to be able to give that feedback. And I would expect that the person, you know, would ask me for that if I'm not doing it. And you could position it in such a way that you know, you're trying to grow, you're trying to understand, you're trying to improve. So could you please give me that feedback on why I didn't get the business? So I do think that's something that everyone can do. One of the personal examples that I was thinking of when you were going through a couple of slides was walking between our two buildings, there's a gym. And so often the gym people are out there trying to get people to sign up for memberships. So I've been approached before, right, and a guy comes and having me a little come and have a free class and want you to sign up and blah, blah. And so I stopped and engaged about a year ago, and he did a nice job. And it just was like, yes, I'm kind of on the fence, I want to do it, but the times aren't really convenient. So anyway, we just had this back and forth. I ended up not signing up for the gym, but I did let him know why. It's like, I have checked it out, your class times, if they were just a half hour different, I'd probably do it. But what I like about him, and I think he's done a great job of selling, like he knew when to stop, right? He knew not to badger me. Because if the conversation had gone on for about 3 more minutes, I would have had a totally different, like I would have just walked away and thought, I'm never going to join your gym because you just badgered me to death. But he knew when to stop. He was very likable. Now when I see him, like we make eye contact, he remembers me. Sometimes I'll joke, you know, hey Joey, whenever I'm ready, you know, I'm going to come to you because I know he's going to get the commission, right? So it's things like that when you're thinking about when you're trying to do your selling, it really is key to be able to read people. And it's that emotional intelligence piece that I think we've talked about in some other sessions to just keep working on. And knowing the customer. He kind of knew, okay, I'm not going to sign up, so now's the time not to keep going. And then just one other experience I wanted to share. Again, I mentioned I was traveling yesterday, and in the meeting, well, there were 2 different meetings for the same relationship we're trying to get established for something. And in the first meeting, the people we were meeting with, really our takeaways were they didn't listen, and their body language told us who they thought was important in the room and who wasn't. And immediately, like during that meeting, I kept thinking back to remember our first session with Laurent. And I thought, wow, these people really need to take his course. Because it was the way, again, we were all positioned in the room pretty equally. But the person, it would be as if I'm training here. I'm sorry, because I haven't had my back to you for a while. So it's not that you're not important. But it was like that the whole session. And anytime a couple of people in the room were speaking, the person would pretty much kind of shift their body as if what you're saying is not important. And again, it's just little things like that, that as you're doing your businesses and doing your pitching and knocking on the doors, all those things to keep important. Meanwhile, the second meeting we had, it was a 180. It was almost as if she was a fly on the wall and had been reading our thoughts about what was going wrong with that first meeting. Because the next group of people we met with, very engaged, you know, smiling on their face, made sure they were getting everybody engaged, talking to everyone's opinions. So I just wanted to share that. I do think it touches on what you were talking about knowing the consumer, knowing your customer, who you're selling to, et cetera. Thank you.
Anything else from anyone? Thoughts, comments, questions?
Thank you.
All right. Well,
Have a
then,
good
thank you,
day.
James. Oh, just 1 second, James. I have a little thing for you.
We need your picture. Let's take a picture. Can I take a picture?
Thank you for
Ladies are
your time
pros
with
at
us.
this for now.
And then we'll just take a picture with the group and then with you. All of the trainings recorded. So before we break,
Right? Maybe just squeeze a little bit, just a little bit.
A little bit more.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Good.
Okay, we'll break 10 minutes. We'll come back at 11 o'clock. All right? Thanks, everyone.
I require some applications to make it